Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. So the first thing I want to do in this video is I want to fix this color here where it looks a slightly bit grayer out here than it does for the other icons, especially in light mode. So let's head into our retweet action, the and then let's take a look at this icon here. For now we have, in this case, set up here a text screen 400, but it is also overridden by text grid 400, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. And now it looks better. So the second thing we want to go ahead and fix is, in this case, also the retweeting functionality. So if we go ahead and click undo retweet, we get an issue here. Apps events retweet count updated. Argument must be type of model tweet, null given. So this is happening inside retweet action, the PHP, on line 39. So this is where it's happening. And retweet count updated takes in a tweet. In this case, let's just die dump on, in this case, retweet original retweet. And also let's make sure we just close it with a semicolon. Just like that. Let's click undo retweet. We get null. And in this case, we want to go ahead and just see what happens if we go ahead and say retweet. So yeah, the issue I think here is that we are essentially supposed to update just a retweet here instead of the original tweet. So if we go ahead and click now, nothing is still happening. So let's take a look in here. So it doesn't look like anything is going on there. Now we're just getting an error here with reading, in this case it says original tweet on null, which is in this Livewire components tweet user. So let's take a look at that. So let's take a look at tweet user first. In here we are currently getting nothing calling original tweet, so that's not where anything is going on. Then let's take a look at where this actually I think happens is inside tweetable.php. So let's head into the component here. And let's find original tweet. And I think we're getting it from here, so let's just check if we can get rid of this here. And let's make sure we also have this in here. And this currently provides an issue with getting the text here, which is fine. We'll work with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start from a clean slate with the tweets for now, and I'm gonna go ahead and go to tweet. Oh, sorry, not this one. Xclone YT. And then here we're gonna go ahead and just get rid of all the tweets here. And then it's gonna just say hello. Gonna retweet this. and we get an error here. That's the other thing we wanted to address. This is again has retweets where we have the issue. Has retweets on line 43. So let's take a look in here. So on line 43 we have this here. So in this case, let's go ahead and die dump this tweet. Let's go ahead and just restart this process because there's clearly some issues here. So we're getting null here in this case. So in this case, we are basically notifying the user of tweet. So first and foremost, let's ensure that before we start notifying that this is always set here. So I think we're going to go ahead and just say, in this case, tweet here. Gonna go ahead and get rid of the retweet. And now I'm gonna just go ahead and die dump on tweet for now. So if we go ahead and delete the retweet again, and we go ahead and click retweet, you can see we're getting the tweet here, and that's fine. So let's for now just leave it at that. And with that sorted, let's go ahead and get rid of this one here and see what happens. So we're clicking retweet. Tend to read user ID here, so that's again the issue where when we notify the users, in this case, we go ahead and say, we call notify user of retweets, which is called here, we pass through the tweet. And in this case, the reason why we can't use this tweet function, which we could go ahead and add, is because we need to have this tweet here. So what we can go ahead and do is essentially reference ourselves inside tweet the PHP in the model. So we just go ahead and say PHP public function tweet. We could refer to that, but the other option we have as well, instead of doing that, is essentially inside here, we could just say this user ID, which I think makes more sense. So let's just go ahead and stick with that. Let's go ahead and just change this to this ID, or actually just this in this case here, and that should hopefully work. So we're gonna go ahead and start from a clean slate, get rid of this retweet here, click retweet, and it's gone through. It's not really gone through in real time, so there's some issue going on there, so let's take a look at that. And this is something to do with the Livewire rendering, so that's fine, we will figure that out. So first and foremost, let's take a look at the content though that we're getting in here. We are getting this here, but we're also getting this being retweeted here, which is perfect. This is still showing logout here, which is great. So if we go ahead and undo this, did it come up with any error? Nope, but it does go ahead and essentially get rid of the actual tweet, so it does make it appear a bit slightly off. So that's something we need to look at, why it's not actually getting rid of it here, because we have the text here, we have the ID, but it's just not appearing. So let's take a look at why that may be. So this, in this case, would be checking inside has retweets, and we would go into the tweet here, retweet action. Tweet was deleted. In here we return this tweet ID, that's fine. And in this case, we are not properly deleting it here, so that's the issue. We're setting deleted at here, so we shouldn't do that to the original tweet. So what we should do instead is say, in this case, we're getting the retweet pass through, deleting it here, this dispatch, the retweet ID, which is the original retweet we're getting here, but we want to get the actual retweet set to deleted as. If we go ahead and say hi, retweet it, and if we click undo retweet, what happens here is that this one here is the one we actually want to set deleted at to null, not the other one. So that's what we essentially need to figure out here, why that is happening. So to deal with that, let's go into our retweet actions here. And when we click undo retweet, in this case, we have access to the original tweet here. So that's what we're getting passed through. So what we need to make sure of is that we get the retweet one that we actually want to have in here. So if we click on this one here, the first thing I actually want to go ahead and sort out is making sure that if you click anywhere on it, it will work. So if we take a look at this ban element here, let's make this class of flex with full. And now it's covering a greater area. And again, we are getting the wrong retweet here. So let's take a look in here. So we have in here just the tweet pass through. So if we head into our undo retweet, let's just do this tweet. In this case, the issue is that we are, in this case, looking at the original tweet and deleting it. So what we want to do in here is we want to essentially grab the ID here. So we always want to make sure we do that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a private function in here, get retweeted tweet. And it's going to return a tweet model. So in here we want to say, and it can return null sometimes. And if we want to say tweet model find, and in this case, this tweet, original tweet, we could do that, or we could say where use ID. It's the same as auth ID. And then where original tweet ID is the same as tweet ID there. And then we want to go ahead in here and say this get retweeted tweet. And in this case, delete retweet here. We want to go ahead and say the same thing. So if we go into our retweet actions in here, instead we want to go ahead and say this get retweeted tweet, delete retweet. Currently nothing has happened, that's fine. Let's click undo. There we go. If we go ahead and click retweet, there we go. So the only thing is now that we need to basically make sure the real-time functionality is working here. So we will take a look at that as well. So in here we want to get instead this get retweeted ID. So if we now go ahead and retweet and then undo retweet, it didn't seem to work fully here, so let's take a look again. Retweeting here. Let's see what's going on inside here. If we go ahead and add debug to our herd reverb here, so let's go ahead and see if it's getting added. And it is being passed through, which is great. So let's take a look at in here. First issue we get is with ID here. So let's take a look inside our app.blade.php, which looks fine. And then let's take a look at our app.js. This also looks relatively okay, so in this case we just have to figure out why this error is happening. So one of the things we need to get rid of here is these functions here. We just need to prepend it into this collection. And then after that, this should hopefully slowly start working. We also need to fix this issue over here. So if we go ahead in this case and we're adding a tweet ID in here, so we're essentially creating a tweet here. And this is where we create the retweet. So we want to go ahead in here and say tweet in here to be returned, because we need to have that here. So in this case we call this retweet. We say this is going to be retweet ID, because this is where we're creating it inside this trait has treats. And we are going ahead in here, adding the tweet inside timeline here. We're prepending it. We're gonna go ahead and first and foremost delete it now. Go ahead and then retweet. And we also need to, of course, return it inside this create tweet function. So we need to go ahead and say return tweet. Let's go ahead and undo this. And now it's showing here, but it's not showing the original one. So let's go ahead and see inside our retweet action. We're going ahead and then we're calling this add tweet into timeline here. Let's go ahead and just add that instead. And there we go. Now it appears down here. So that's essentially how we're fixing this issue. Now I want to go ahead to sidebar quickly and looking at why this is looking a little bit weird. So yeah, let's get rid of this here. This was from another tutorial, so we can ignore that for now. And just go ahead and add it was what it was originally. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. If we go ahead and try to undo it now, that's the only issue we have. But if we add tweet, that works fine. So that's inside timeline again. And here we are essentially gonna have to go ahead and delete the tweet. And this is where it goes wrong. So if we take a look at retweet action, and in here we have undo retweet. We call this get retweet tweet ID, but in this delete tweet here, we're getting the tweet ID. So let's first and foremost just die dump on tweet. And it's null. So let's die dump on tweet ID instead. And that seems to be working fine. And then we're essentially going ahead in here. And I think one of the issues we're encountering here is that we should probably call this a bit later on, or wait with it essentially. So we need to essentially defer this function. I'm gonna leave that for the next video though. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the